Okay, so metal.
Metal.
The show's about metal.
What is metal? We're going to spread the hidden value in music.
We're going to proselytize. We're going to get the word out there.
We are.
That's important.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 38 of the Great Metal Podcast. We are here with Shredmaster Scott, Just Pete, and the Metal Evangelist. Oh, man. It's good to be back, guys. Last week was a holiday, and so we did a premiere of one of our early episodes.
A original video release. We've not put that footage out before, so you got to watch us sitting there sweating it out around the round table, the octagonal table.
Yeah, the octagonal table.
Hell
Yeah. So no, that was cool to get out there, but it's good to be back live talking to everybody. Hopefully,
I feel good. I feel strong. I just want to eat this mic and suck on it. Ooh, you can't even see my mic. There it is.
What better way to start than that? Shred getting all up in you.
Get up in you, brother. Yeah. Well, this is one of my favorite topics when you talk about, metal and classical music. I think they're just such a fun combination. They play off each other in a lot of really cool ways. It just makes for a good time.
Well, it does. And so, there it is. We are going Bach to the future today.
That's right.
Yeah. The influence that classical music, not classic metal, like, 70s stuff, but like classical music, Beethoven, Bach, these guys, Vivaldi had on metal, because, I think when you think about it at a very, visceral surface level, they appear to be on total opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Like classical music is highbrow, you wear a tuxedo and, you have to be rich to go watch it and all that kind of stuff. And then metal is like the underground rejects, the castaways of society. And
this is so interesting. That's so true. Why is it that way is the question. A lot of it probably has to do with the visual presentation of metal, where we have whatever leather jackets and tattoos and piercings. And
right.
what's actually being played in the music is highly complicated. It takes a lot of skill, years of dedication and practice, much like classical music.
Right.
So it gets a bad rap for some of those surface level things,
Yeah, I mean, the other thing you develop if like you're a triangle player in classical is patience, where you're really waiting, and maybe metal doesn't have all the virtues of classical in that respect.
No. I heard Dragon Force is looking for a triangle player. So if anybody has triangle skills, let's audition.
Yeah.
That's like a running
it.
It. It's
a triangle player. Yeah. Well, so that's what we're going to explore a little bit today. We got a bunch of fun clips that we can play to kind of show how some of the stuff they were doing back in the 16, 17, 1800s is really it parallels. Yeah, it's modern metal. If those guys had distorted guitars, they would have been using them.
That's the question. If we were able to resurrect Bach, get him going today, would he accept metal music? Would he find it like innate, to him, or be like, oh yeah, okay, this is good shit, or not?
Well,
Interesting thing to consider.
In Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, they get Beethoven. Right. And then he's at the mall and he's like jamming out on that electric synth, synthesizer, And
so there's some definitive proof. That's definitive proof right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, we'll never know is the reality, but I would love to see, how someone like Wagner would respond to Nightwish. I bet you he would love it.
I bet he would love it too.
I have a feeling.
Yeah, and for no other reason than, you know, classical music was so much about experimentation, and so is metal. You know, I think the classical guys would have gotten bored with,
right.
I hate to say this, I think they would have gotten bored with 035. Oh no. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Did you ever get bored with 035, Luke?
Well,
it's impossible.
In part of the interview we're going to watch later, the Richie Blackmore said that he never gets tired of playing it. And in fact, every night when he goes to bed, he hums it because he's like, it's such a great riff.
Bedtime lullaby puts him right to sleep.
Yeah. But
wow.
So let's kind of outline some of what we're going to talk about, because it kind of, when you start looking at the similarities and the dissimilarities between two different music styles, or anything really, I kind of saw it in like three broad categories. So there's like structure, there's virtuosity, and dynamics.
Yes.
And so, like, you know, the structure is things like, you know, in classical music, a lot of times use 4-part harmony, right? Which what are those? There's bass,
Tenor,
alto,
tenor, and soprano.
And soprano. There you go.
Yeah, stab. That's an easy way to remember it, even though it's not in order. But stab, soprano, tenor, alto, bass.
Oh, there you go.
Helps. Yeah.
Yeah. We're learning something new already.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, another piece of classical music relating to metal is this issue of virtuosity. You can't just pick up a cello and have never played before and then all of a sudden be playing Vivaldi on it, right? It just doesn't work. You have to develop, right? It doesn't work that way. You got to develop a skill because the music is actually quite technical. And you see the same thing in metal very, very much. And then there's
your entry. You know, you can't just get straight into being a guitar god like Randy Rhoads, man. That takes some serious practice.
Right. But you can pick up a guitar and learn Wonderwall, you know, probably within a couple of hours, you know.
Instant babe magnet. That's all it takes, boys.
Yeah.
Get yourself an acoustic axe and you'll just be flooded with Wappian attention, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think actually learning the simplistic songs, it is a great way to practice and develop your skill.
You can hear the WAP juice there.
Oh my gosh. You can actually hear it.
Go ahead.
And then the third category is dynamics. Which is something that you see in classical music, the rising and falling of tempos, different time signatures within the same musical piece. It experiments with stuff like atonality. Name a pop song that utilizes atonality.
There are none, Luke.
There are none, but there are in classical music and there are in metal.
Name a pop artist that knows what atonality is.
Pete, that's another level of wow.
Now here is a critique though on metal. Peter the Destroyer said he would improve upon metal. One thing about metalheads is that we do not change keys all that much. If the guitar is tuned to D, we play in D.
Well, Peter,
I don't know if
this depends on the kind of metal you're listening to. If you listen to Symphony X, Michael Romeo, MJR, he has a real hard time staying in one key for more than, like, I would say a minute. Any given Symphony X song is constantly modulating.
Well, Romeo probably doesn't play in drop D though, does he?
He plays in D standard, so he tunes the entire guitar down a whole step. But, but he's constantly changing keys. Now, you know, like Metallica, Megadeth stuff, a lot of that's going to be based on whatever the low string is.
He's agreeing here, progressive metal aside, for sure.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing, isn't it? For sure. Yeah. But I mean, again, like a band like Symphony X or a lot of progressive metal, those guys were very influenced by classical composers. And you can even hear, we'll talk about some of this later, but you can hear things like Gustav Holst, you know, in Symphony X's music, of course, Mozart, and a lot of other composers as well. So Romeo really, that was like just his easy listening material, you know. Instead of queuing up WAP, he was just checking out, you know, Mozart's Symphony Number 40 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
When do you think the comparisons began? Brandon mentioned here that someone once told him metal is just classical music with blast beats. And, you know, we've talked about this quite a bit. Like this is a popular topic. I mean, when did people start comparing? Do you guys have any idea of metal and classical?
Well, I mean, probably that's a good question. Probably in the 70s, you know, when progressive rock bands like ELP started actually incorporating that stuff into their own music. Right. So
They
did
weren't
Mars
selling it that way, probably, but people picked up on it early.
Well, I mean, like I said, ELP actually covered Mars the Bringer of War. It's a weird rendition, but you can look it up. It's not my favorite rendition by far. I much prefer like Metallica's and Diamond Head's. But yeah, they were, you know, more or less open about that, and you could see examples of, you know, the virtuosity Luke's talking about in their playing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, to that point, I think one thing about some of the early metal guys, wow,
I had a very high pitch on it there.
Yeah. One thing about a lot of the early metal guys is that they had some classical music training. They either started learning piano or violin or something as their first instrument. Right. And so they were exposed to a lot of classical music. But then they
like the keyboard players in prog rock, like I'm thinking of like Rick Wakeman of Yes, you know, or John Lord of Deep Purple. And I think those guys overall were more educated than, you know, as humble guitar players and bassists and drummers. So they maybe that's how it started, you know, because they grew up maybe playing some of the classical composers, and then they're like, "Hey, Richie, check it out. You know, here's a classical riff. Here's Beethoven's Fifth Symphony or whatever."
Well, so to that point, we've actually got some clips from an interview that Richie Blackmore did. And I mean, arguably, he wrote the most recognizable riff on the planet, you know, 035 here. And so let's check out what he said about, you know, how he got there and, you know, what the influence was.
35 years after its 1972 release, Smoke on the Water by the influential British rockers Deep Purple remains
this is an old
pure rock and roll. And at its core is that unforgettable guitar riff.
He's clapping along.
Composed by the original band member, Richie Blackmore.
A lot of people play it this way. Which is not correct. It's played in fourths.
Check out his hat.
Fourths, which is going back to the medieval times. That's how they played a lot of Chant parts, was parallel fourths.
True.
So now you have. I would play jazz on the guitar and very intricate stuff, very fast stuff. And then I started listening to the Kinks, the Who, and people that were very simple. And I thought, this is getting across to the people. I want to be involved in this. So I listened to Ludwig, Beethoven.
Ludwig.
Bum, 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 bum. And I thought, play that backwards. Put something to it, and you've got bum, 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 bum. That's how I came up with it.
Hang on. Are you telling me?
Yes.
The guy's mind's blown.
That the famous riff of Smoke on the Water is from Beethoven.
It's an interpretation of inversion. If you turn it back and play it back and forth, it's actually Beethoven's Fifth. So I owe him a lot of money.
Straight up ripping off Beethoven. Love it.
Yeah.
Do it. Why not?
So, yeah, I mean, that's literally what he's saying is he listened to classical music, got inspired by it, started using some music theory, some, you know, inversion, and boom, writes the most iconic riff of all time.
Which backwards would actually be something called retrograde. Like Mercury retrograde. Inversion is when you flip the intervals upside down. But whatever. I mean, the point is that, he was inspired by this stuff, right? And, And there you go.
Well,
035 was birthed.
What's interesting there is he was like, I was playing jazz, so I went to Beethoven to get the simplicity. Like he just nailed the simplicity. So I thought if I went with that,
it's a good point though. That main theme, in Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is very simple. And what Richie was trying to say was that the bands like the Who were simple, and that's why they were communicating with the masses. And that's good advice for anybody who's writing songs. Try to make at least a song that has a simple foundation. You can do some fancy stuff. Van Halen's another good example. Simple foundation, but then some nice complex frosting on top.
Well, classical kind of did that. Had to. I mean, that was kind of the mainstream music, back in the day. And so I think you had to find that way to appeal. And maybe that's something that some metal has lost, in that they're like, let's just take the complex and not bring the hooks and things that bring the masses along for the ride.
You can definitely get there in some of like the technical metal stuff, math metal. You can get there. They're playing stuff that's technically unbelievable, but it just sounds so bad. It's hard to listen to. So it's like fun to like throw on to like try to blow people's minds with, but you're not going to like jam out to it in your car. There
is a lot of bands that I listen to. I've been watching a lot of like Century Media records, like their YouTube channel, and Napalm records. And I see a lot of bands, that just have this unbelievable technical virtuosity, but I'm like, the song structure sucks. You guys need a little help with that.
Right.
Virtuosity is worthless unless you can recruit it, for a good song, right? It's got to be used properly.
Yeah.
So
now here's the other thing about classical is let's watch this clip of Beethoven's Fifth performed by the LA Philharmonic, and notice the conductor. His name is Gustavo Dudamel.
I call him the dude. Yeah.
The dude. Yeah. So check out this guy conducting Beethoven's Fifth.
He's got the hair for it. Bouncing around.
Great hair. Give it to me, dude.
Oh, he feels it.
He felt that diminished chord.
I mean, that dude is metal AF. Let me tell you. I mean, just so and notice that. I mean, it's loud and bombastic, dun 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 dun, and then I mean, it quiets way down. There's so much movement going on in this, 40 seconds of music.
Yeah.
Oh man,
there's a lot of range we're covering in terms of the expressive dynamics of things. As opposed to it being like a monotone pop song, right? This is like got a lot of ebbs and flows, and we're going through these peaks and valleys of emotion, and we're just experiencing a lot.
I think the important thing there, as Garlic Deathface points out, is that his hair is the most important instrument.
His hair is incredible.
It resonates at exactly A440 all the time, so the orchestra just tunes to that.
Yeah.
Tunes to
he doesn't even need the baton. He doesn't need the baton. He just uses his hair.
As long as you can see the hair, you can stay in time.
Yeah.
Man, that's a whole other thing. Like, can you imagine trying to keep time in an orchestra? People are like, why do you need the conductor? What is he actually doing? Well, he's largely, he's keeping everybody on the same page, but also the expressive qualities. He's the dynamic life of the piece, right? The dude is telling you when to get louder, when to get softer, and how to bring those black dots to life.
Oh man, well, he does a great job.
Yeah.
Old Dudamel does a great job with that. I think we've got him in another clip where he's conducting at the Berliner Philharmonic. But yeah, so that there you go. 035 apparently came from Beethoven's Fifth. So some clear influence there, at least in terms of metal getting started. There are some. So fast forward a little bit to like the 80s, and then you got Yngwie Malmsteen, right? And Malmsteen took it to a whole new level. He was like, well, I'm literally just going to play classical music on my guitar and then shred over the top of it, right? So I'm not 100% sure what year this is, but we have a clip of him. It was with a Japanese orchestra, and it was called Guitar Concerto Suite in E flat minor. And here's a clip of
that's just a diabolical thing to do to an orchestra. Let's play everything in E flat. They probably just wanted to murder him. That's very hard to play in.
E flat. Yeah. Well, I mean, here he is literally playing classical music.
Look at his attire too. He's got like almost like the cufflinks, and I don't know what you call that. Like his shirt that's very I don't know.
There is a word for those shirts, like the pirate shirts.
Yeah, it looks like a pirate shirt.
Yeah,
I don't know if he might have written some of this music himself for that particular thing. I don't know, but
yeah, that might not actually be class. I mean, I think some of it is, but then some of it is his own original stuff. That's incredible.
That's the connection for sure. You nailed it, Luke, because Richie Blackmore came before, and Yngwie cites Richie as like one of his primary influences. So that's a big reason why Yngwie got into classical music, but he was definitely even more into it than Richie. I mean, he was just like listening to Bach all day. Bach in particular, I know he was or still is a huge fan of.
Yeah, I mean, I think Yngwie, I mean, he's kind of like the godfather of neoclassical metal.
Yes.
Right? I mean, he took it in such a literal direction. It wasn't just influenced by classical music. He's like, I want to make modern day classical music and make it metal.
So
he did it.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to bring up in this discussion, because that is, neoclassical metal. That's a direct, source, turning classical into metal. Some of the other metal bands we're going to talk about, it's not as direct there, but
right.
A band like Symphony X, that you can see they definitely came more from this sort of line of thinking, from the Deep Purple and the Yngwie. But then there's like a whole sort of blues aspect to metal music, right? With like Black Sabbath and a lot of other bands too. So, there's a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities too.
Yeah. And
what is Peter saying? He went from 035 and took it to 035, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, a lot of other numbers.
Added a couple.
It's basically what happened there. Yeah.
Malmsteen will do that to you. You got to watch that guy. He throws numbers in there, and they're just going by so fast. But and I'm a huge fan of neoclassical metal. Power metal really, latches on to a lot of neoclassical as well.
I feel like my power metal is behind. Like, who's the hot new power metal? I know some the
Dragon Force.
Oh, yeah, I guess Dragon Force. Yeah, they're newer.
Yeah, they'd be considered power metal.
But is power metal still like a genre that's growing? And
yeah,
like new bands in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's really big in places like Italy.
Really?
Yeah, Germany. Power metal is really, really popular.
Sabaton is considered power metal. I think we talked about this. We consider that war metal.
Well, yeah, they somebody dubbed them war metal, but they're definitely power metal. I mean, it's like, it's war metal because of the content of a lot of their lyrics.
Well,
but
plus
the music,
videos, they're like sitting on a warship and it's just shooting, like missiles. It's pretty direct correlation there. Hammerfall, I've heard of those guys, but I'm not too familiar.
Yep. Hammerfall's been around a long time, but they're still going.
Halloween.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so here comes Malmsteen. I mean, he released everybody that was like, oh, metal, classical, do they fit together? Blah. Malmsteen's like, hell yes, they do. And just like,
hell yes, they do. I'm gonna make it work. Oh.
He performed intercourse with it. So then you started seeing more established metal bands like Metallica and Megadeth start incorporating some symphonic elements, right? So of course, probably the most well-known one is Metallica and S&M, which I think stood for Symphony and Metallica, right?
Is that what it stands for? I know it was the San Francisco Symphony. Michael Kamen or something was the conductor who did all the arrangements, if I'm recalling that right. But
could be.
I don't actually know what S&M stands for. It sounds like a bondage term or something.
Well, it is.
Yes.
Masochism. But if anybody knows what S&M by Metallica stands for, let us know, because we actually don't know. But so they took their music and just took their own music, but then composed an entire symphony part for their music. So here's a clip of one during the S&M concert.
Back in the room, it's much too real. It pumps life that I must feel. Hope can look forward to reveal. Look to the time when I lived. Fed through the tube that sticks in me. Just like a one-time novelty. Tied to machines that bring me be. Got this shit off from me. Hold my breath this time.
So that's Metallica's one, but the question is, are they ever going to write two? When's two coming out?
Good question. Yeah, I mean the layers that having that symphony playing behind them adds,
and that's actually really hard to make an arrangement that works in that setting. Rock band takes up a lot of space sonically. So you'll notice that the orchestra is mainly just like really slow, long notes. They're not doing anything complicated, because if they were, it'd be a mess.
It would just get too jumbled.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. You wouldn't be able to pick anything out. So that's a real skill to do that. And like a lot of bands have done this now, right? I mean, who are some others?
Dream Theater.
Dream Theater's done it.
They played. A live show. What was that, in New York or somewhere? I think
maybe Boston,
or maybe it was Boston.
Was it the Fourth Wall one or something? Anyway, it's hard to make an orchestra harmonize with a rock band. But a lot of bands have done that well. Nightwish.
Radio City Music Hall in New York was Dream Theater 2006, called Score. It's their live album with full orchestra.
Yeah.
I was with.
Yeah.
I was
I think I
thinking.
have that on DVD actually.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it's
remember
a DVD.
Yeah.
that. I remember that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Peter the Destroyer, I mean, 100% right. It's more complimentary on S&M. And and I think for the most part, that's a good thing, right? I mean, if you completely rewrite one to play to orchestra, I mean, it's not going to be the same song, right? So having it be more complimentary is, I think that's great. And that's something that, so Shred, you brought up Nightwish. We have a Nightwish clip here because I mean, they kind of started the whole symphonic metal genre.
Did they?
And
They were the first symphonic metal band.
yeah, they were the ones kind of credited with starting it.
How long has Nightwish been around? When did they start?
It was 94 or something.
Okay.
We talked about this in a previous podcast. There were certainly some metal bands, like Celtic Frost is often cited as being one of the first bands to incorporate symphonic instruments into some of their tracks. And that was back in like the early 80s.
Yeah.
But Nightwish was like, all of our songs are going to be based around string instruments and horns and all this kind of stuff, brass. And so they really brought the symphony metal together in a way that really hadn't been done before. And they on the actual recordings, they typically used real instruments. Obviously live, they're playing tracks, right? They don't tour with a symphony orchestra.
Very expensive.
That's expensive. You got to hire the locals. But anyway, so here's a clip of The Poet and the Pendulum, which really highlights, the symphonic element of metal in symphonic metal.
She floors me every time I hear her sing. Floored.
Nightwish is just great. But yeah, they do really incorporate that. They have a lot of epic songs like that. But even in their non-epic stuff, what Tumos does on the keys a lot of time brings in a lot of reminiscence of orchestra sounds and stuff. And they have that guy that plays all the woodwind stuff and like the bagpipes and
He never gets any credit for anything.
No, it's like he's not in the band, but he's always like there playing all the time. And like
one time I went to a Nightwish show and I had backstage passes and everybody was hiding. There was no Tumos, there was no floor, but the bagpipe guy was just like cruising around, no problem, because nobody even knew who he was. So no fear of getting recognized.
Yeah, which is a shame because that guy's incredible. He's just like switching out instruments like all the time on stage. But this Nightwish is an example of they actually use the symphonic instruments to drive a lot of their melodies. Now it's still guitar driven, right? Metal is guitar driven. It is what it is, right? Distorted guitar, that is metal. But a lot of what they're doing is they're creating the harmonies or running parallel with the guitar. And then you have these like fun things, the French horn going off in the background,
Love the
and
French
so
horn.
Yeah, just like the level of depth and dimension is incredible. In terms of songwriting, this is where, that similarity, like virtuosity goes, right? Because, it's one thing to learn to play a song on drums or on a guitar or whatever. But Tuomos is like writing the musical parts of all these different instruments, and certain instruments. Shred, you can probably talk to this. Certain instruments don't sound as good doing certain things, right?
Oh,
so it's like, yeah, you can't. It just because you can't just be like, I'm going to write this really cool part and I'm going to have a flute do it. And it's like, well, it sounds crazy with a flute doing it, but it would sound great with a violin doing it.
Imagine, like Angel of Death with the flute instead of guitar. That just wouldn't have the same effect. Slayer's Angel of Death. When it comes to orchestrating, man, that's like a fine-tuned detail. Every instrument has its own sort of frequency range that it wants to be in, and its own timbre or tone quality that may or may not work. I specifically love the French horn, though, because it sounds like distorted electric guitar when you blow hard. You got to blow it. You got to blow J. So if you go up to like fortissimo volume, triple F, F stands for what? Let people in the chat figure that out. But if you get that a really loud dynamic level on a French horn, it produces a natural overdrive effect. And we're going to hear this in Mars, the Bringer of War when we check that out. But it's a wonderful, like if I didn't play guitar, I'd maybe play French horn because it's very metal.
It's so wild. Well, let's check that out because our next example is Diamond Head basically and several other bands basically ripped off Mars, the Bringer of War, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't like use it like as a sample or something. They like took the melody and made their own metal song.
I mean, the thing is that was composed in 1914. So public domain is like, what is it? 70 years copyright,
yeah, something like that.
It probably just went out of like just by a year or two. The public went into the public domain. So maybe that's why they did it. I've never thought of that, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so here's Mars, Bringer of War. You guys very well may recognize this.
Oh, yeah. It gives me chills every time. Bill. Oh, So we actually didn't get the direct Diamond Head melody reference there. That was coming up in a minute, or you might have skipped it there. It comes in like twice in the piece. But anyway, listen. You guys need to listen to the whole piece because it is unbelievably good. I can just listen to that over and over again, like all day long. It's such a journey of emotion.
Well, let's listen to Am I Evil? Now, this is not by Diamond Head. This is actually by the Big Four, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. They all got together and did a tour, and they played Am I Evil? So see if you can hear the reference. Yeah. Lot of drum. So
look at that. Dee Mustaine and James Hetfield side by side, not killing each other or trying to kill each other. So that's right.
Apparently they don't mind each other. At least it's
Yeah,
not murderous.
They should have got some of those big, heavy classical drums. They're more epic than their snares
Oh, like
there, or
some
whatever they were
timpanis.
Yeah.
Well, but like that riff, dun dun dun.
Yeah.
I mean
that's one.
Yeah, that you hear that at that very beginning. It's really quiet in the orchestra piece.
Yeah, right.
But I mean that's
really loud later, like fortissimo, super.
Oh, I didn't get that far into the clip.
Oh shit!
Well, but we heard the beginning part. So, and they obviously somebody has probably talked about from Diamond Head has said like, yeah, I was inspired by Mars, Bringer of War, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a direct. You guys aren't fooling nobody. We know what's going on here.
When it's a direct copy, you don't have to say that. You just
but again, it's
figure it out.
With classical music, these guys are from the past, and a lot of it's public domain. So yeah, you don't have to worry about referencing it as much.
I mean, but that's why we're talking about Bach to the future, right? We're trying to bring it. That metal's bringing Bach to the future.
That's right.
And sometimes just straight up ripping it off directly to the future.
Maybe Back in Black should have been called Bach in Black.
There you go.
Oh, maybe.
Well,
giving him access to that electric guitar he never had.
Right. Well, and so here's a perfect example. Since you brought up Bach, thank you for doing that, Pete. So Bach's the Marriage of Figaro, right?
That's Mozart.
Oh, that's Mozart. Darn it.
Figaro.
Well, then not speaking of Bach.
But we haven't talked about Mozart yet anyway. So let's
talk
Mozart.
Let's talk about Mozart. So because we actually have an example of a band, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, literally taking, the Marriage of Figaro and doing a metal version of it. So here's the original. Let's play that.
Is that Chinese or Japanese, Pete?
It looked like Japanese to me, but I was working on a comment.
Some virtuosity.
Oh yeah. I've never seen old dudes go so crazy.
They can go hard, bro.
Okay, so everybody's probably familiar with that. You probably heard it at some point or whatever. Well, then here comes Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and they're like, let's make it modern metal.
Dude, you gotta love TSO. We got some good comments here with Bach puns. You got Bach metal instead of black metal.
That's what I was just gonna highlight.
Bach Label metal. Society, which is Zach Wilde from Ozzy Osbourne, who's in the thumbnail. Painted Bach, that's Rolling Stones. Instead, Painted Black, which I've done Painted White too. Bach at the Moon. That's,
that's really
Ozzy Osbourne, Jakey Lee on guitar. Of course, doesn't get as much credit as Randy Rhoads or Zach Wilde, but great guitarist.
Good work, everyone.
Yeah,
People
great.
jumped
That
on
is
It's
good.
too much fun.
Yeah, well done. Oh man.
Wizards in Winter. Yeah, we know that song.
That is a good one.
Dig it, dig it. It's got that really fast lick in it. Is that based on any classical composer though? I don't know that it is, but it's just a good song.
So speaking of whether something's based on classical composer or not, what about Flight of the Bumblebee? Is that who actually composed Flight of the Bumblebee?
Rimsky-Korsakov.
Rimsky-Korsakov. Let's see if you're right. Yeah, Rimsky-Korsakov. There it was.
There it was.
Now, I will say the classical versions of these songs are actually way faster than the metal guys play it.
Well, it depends on which version you're listening to, but TSO slows it down a little.
I mean, this is fast.
This is supposed to be at about 170. TSO is playing it like 130.
I mean, that's impressively fast. Those guys have chops.
Oh yeah.
Now
That
fingers are really flying on the
like a bumblebee.
yeah,
buzzing. But the fastest, I think. Oh man, this gets dicey. But Guinness Book of World Records, right? They use that piece as like a way to acknowledge the fastest musicians.
Right.
And it was like 300. There's this guy that got the record for 300 beats per minute. Original's 170, so like almost twice as fast. But then there's a guy who got 600, and that's extremely fast. That's twice as fast as the last guy. But then they kind of backed it off and like, well, maybe we're not counting the notes properly. Whatever. It turned out to be a bit of a you can't count at that speed. But the point is that this has become like a benchmark for metal virtuosity in a lot of ways. There's a lot of guitar players that test their metal, so to speak, by how fast they can play Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee.
Yeah. Well, so here's TSO's version of it. And it's considerably slower, and they rearrange it slightly, actually a little more than slightly, but same thing. So let's check out TSO doing it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's great. I think they probably slow that down intentionally to make it more palatable to the audience.
Well,
170
probably
is really fast.
the light show would cause seizures if it went any faster. And they're kind of keeping it time, so
More deaths in the audience from seizures.
They have great light shows.
Garlic Deathface says, "Holy Jesus, you're right." I love that joke. I got blocked on YouTube the other day for saying that joke in a story. YouTube
Really
killing me. But because they thought I was like swearing and cursing, but it's a good music
just
joke.
a G suspended.
It's just a joke.
Chord,
I just saw a guy with a license plate that said that the other day. I posted on my Insta stories. Hilarious.
Before we run off from this, because I've seen it a couple of times, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with these sections. I'm not, but a couple of people mentioned Children of Bodom having classical in their songs.
Oh yeah. Alexi Laiho does Vivaldi's Summer.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so here's the thing.
I don't think
I have a clip of Summer from Vivaldi, but I didn't get a clip of Laiho doing it.
Alexi's, he just had a song release too. I was watching, I don't know if it was Century Media or Napalm Records, but he just released a new track, by the way, if you guys want to check that out.
Oh, yeah. Check it out. So here's
release.
Summer. Imagine this blonde violinist as Alexi Laiho. I think she is Swedish, actually. So
he's Finnish, I think. I think he's Finnish, but he does have blonde hair.
Oh yeah, he's Finnish. Well, I meant this female is I think Swedish. So yeah, don't tell them that, but check it out.
Yeah. Ooh, that chord right there.
The thing is, classical music, just like metal, when you have movement like that, when you have dynamics where you're just floating.
Luke, are you trying to tell me Megan Thee Stallion does not have dynamics?
I will say it. I'm going to say it. Yes.
What?
Yes, she does not have dynamics. I mean, this is like, it's so incredible. You're going along your day, you're having a nice day. And then all of a sudden, just incredible, whatever emotion it is, rage or, excitement or whatever. And then, you like explode. And then you're like, you're back down. You're having a great time with a single violin. And then it starts building again. It
almost sounds like we're talking about something else. I don't know what you're talking about anymore.
No question, music can be a sensual experience. No question about it. And it's just, I love listening to songs that are just the exact same pace all the way through, the exact same, it's literally monotone. There is some really good stuff written that way, but my gosh, you're not living until you're going up and down. You got to hit those peaks and valleys, man.
You're not living. That's right. Yeah. I mean, the range of human experience encompasses a lot of different emotions. And when you listen to music that reflects those, it's maybe more fulfilling on a certain level.
Yeah. I mean, if
Blackwater Park, I like that.
Blackwater Park. Yeah.
We started something here. Is this just WAP is the best classical piece I heard? Well, I'm going to beg to differ on that one.
Yeah. Again, it's just, I think that part of the point of all art, but I would say, very especially music, is to elicit some kind of emotional reaction, right? And certainly there are other reasons to listen to music, but if you're not getting that emotional high, that emotional fix or whatever, then it's just like, it's like drinking water, I mean, you're not getting any nutrients for your soul. And so
like drinking WAP water, it's just, there's nothing.
Well, that's even worse than drinking water. Yeah.
Gross.
Shred, man. So yeah. Anyway, I really should have gotten Alexi Laiho's clip there, but I didn't. I keep running out of time.
We'll circle back to this because this is a topic that I love and the internet loves it too. So we'll hit it from other angles in the future. As it's just, and it gets people excited about, some of this older music. And I have a personal passion to get people into 20th century music, the last century, because I think that is rife for metal inspiration. That's, and some of the pieces, the Gustav Holst Mars Springer War, that was 20th century. That was 1914. Oh, we got to get to the Rite of Spring.
Yeah. Oh, we still got more to go.
Let's get to that.
Real quickly, I love the way Peter the Destroyer says this: music moves you without touching you. I love it. Oh, that's great.
It was good. It's a good way to put it.
Good way to put it. Yeah. Well, no. So let's listen to the Rite of Spring here, because this
is so important.
You want the second movement, Scott?
dun 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 bum,
Yeah,
bum,
second
that
movement.
one. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Let's check this out.
That's the metal downstroke. Plus syncopation. Yes. That piece and that movement in particular, I think a lot of people have been inspired by just the down picking, chugging sort of aspect of metal. It's such an incredible sequence. You have an E flat 7 chord and then an E major chord on the bottom, which creates just this biting, cringing dissonance. Basically, two major chords a half step apart. And Stravinsky is just the OG metalhead. You got to love that guy.
Dude, when those flutes are going nuts, it's like they're just like spitting,
Dude,
note text in your eyes.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
At the time that was released, people were like, you can't play this, Stravinsky. This is absurd that you would ask us to do this. The technical proficiency had to rise amongst all players in general at that time in order to execute that piece. And there was a riot when the piece was premiered because people were like, this is atonal, it's too distant, this isn't music. And they literally stormed out of the concert hall and there was just a riot.
See, that's so metal.
And Stravinsky even went to jail for like a night or something. Like it was just
Holy
crazy.
crap.
Like he just broke the world at that point. So
well, if
go ahead.
If that doesn't connect, classical music and metal, nothing will. And because it's one of the things we were talking about just prior to the podcast is you don't hear atonality in any other thing but classical music and metal. Well, maybe jazz. I don't know. Jazz.
Jazz, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. You experiment with atonality there. And so, no, that's a great example of, I could totally hear what I just heard from like Slayer or, something, just an extreme metal band, because it's something that extreme metal would compose.
Yeah.
And, so that influence is huge. So that's the key, Shred, 20th century metal, however you got to do it.
I've tried to brand myself several times as being 20th century metal. I need to write more music maybe in that genre, but I feel like, there's neoclassical metal. There's a lot of, classical and metal ripoffs, but there is no 20th century metal genre. That's what's next, boys. Jump on that one.
But to that point, there's the 20th century classical music has had a distinctive impact and influence on metal.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But there isn't necessarily like
it
a
can
genre.
go a lot further. We can take it a lot further than where we've taken it. Just like the chords that are being used there, for instance, the harmonies and stuff. Anyway, it's a great source of inspiration. Every time I listen to 20th century classical music, I just get very inspired and I start thinking about writing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's some really cool stuff.
And you're correct. Stravinsky was so metal.
You guys remember Fresh Air by Mannheim Steamroller? They had that Fresh Air series. It was based on seasons, and you're familiar with Mannheim Steamroller, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They're kind of interesting. I would think they were probably early in that kind of bringing, some rock and symphony elements together.
Precursors to DSO.
Very soon. Yeah. kind of similar to what TSO did. But I was just thinking about them because I had a vinyl of that. One of theirs that was based all around a
We could
season.
do like a vinyl show during the week where we listen to like a vinyl all the way through or something.
Oh yeah,
a vinyl. There's no day of the week that starts with V, but if there was, then it'd be like vinyl V day, and then we listen to vinyl.
That'd be classic.
Yeah,
because nobody listens to vinyl anymore, so it'd be a way to introduce the kids to it.
Yeah. I think vinyl's actually making a bit of a comeback. I mean, a lot of metal bands are now releasing vinyls along with their CDs and all their digital downloads.
Yeah.
I know like Arion does every single time. Devin Townsend does.
We got a couple folks said they'd be interested in a vinyl listening party.
I know.
So maybe we'll have to make that happen.
I have this
Russian.
I have this Therion vinyl, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and it's like it's colored vinyls, which is also cool. So there's like this bright orange, like translucent orange and yellow.
I think people would probably rather us do like a Megan Thee Stallion review, but it'd be nice to squeeze that in.
We got to do something for ourselves too.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, so guys, I still have so many clips. Like we didn't get to Also Sprach der Trustra. We didn't get to Lacrimosa. I mean, Toccata and Fugue.
Yeah, round two.
Let's end Toccata with Toccata and Fugue because we didn't even do any Bach. Really.
That's true. This actually is very fitting for ending the show.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like funeral music. So, all right, let's check out Toccata and Fugue.
Halloween too. I like to think he's in a haunted chapel here.
Looks haunted.
Yes. Here comes the diminished chord.
Resolved so perfectly. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
You could say that guy was really laying some pipe, if you know what I mean.
Oh my.
Laying some pipe.
There it is. So
a real pipe layer.
We had to get some Bach in there because we had some of the best Bach puns from you guys today. That was amazing. So okay, yeah, we'll definitely have to revisit this, maybe from a different angle or something, because there's still so much good classical music that you see influenced in modern metal, and we actually didn't even get to listen to that much metal today.
I always just feel like I'm a better human when I listen to classical music too. Just the depth of the art just makes me reflect on things that just enrich the quality of my life. It just really takes you on a journey. If you're able to concentrate for just a few seconds, put your Instagram phone down for just a minute, and then you just get a little bit of that in you. It's so therapeutic.
Well, can I piggyback on that in closing? Brandon mentioned that his friend group is really big into vinyl. Vinyl got the comments talking, and I will say that the thing that I like about vinyl when I got into it was exactly what you said. I would put a record on, and that's what I'd be doing, listening to the record, and it just plays song to song. You listen to a whole album, get up once, flip it over. But it demanded your attention, which is often a way we don't listen to music anymore.
What we should do is take a day or something and then listen to a whole vinyl or something. We're gonna have to make it digital though, just so that people can hear it, unless you can do it direct out or something from your vinyl player. But we just listen to it, and everybody else listens to it, and it's like however long it is. That'd be like we should try that.
Yeah. No, we should.
We'll look into the logistics. That'd be a great thing to do. Vinyl Wednesday.
Vinyl Wednesday. And if you're ever at Beard's Brewery in Petoskey, Michigan, you guys still have your vinyl, your turntable upstairs?
I think we took it out because of COVID, because it was like a sharing point, but it'll go back in once things are regular again for sure.
Samuel says, "What about Vivaldi? You missed it, bro." Samuel, we just did Vivaldi, and you missed it.
Vivaldi for sure. I mean,
That's okay.
very
Just
metal.
rewind the video.
Yeah. And because a lot of Paganini and Vivaldi, a lot of the shred guitar guys were highly inspired by Paganini and Vivaldi. So definitely an inspiration. So awesome. Well, it was good to be back live with you guys. Thanks so much for joining. Fantastic conversation. And we'll do it again next week. We'll be live again next week, which is great. So until then, you know the deal. The world ends with you. So keep it metal.